Hi, I'm Michelle Olivier, and you're listening to Hey, I Want Your Job, the podcast that looks at amazing jobs and what it takes to get them. Hey, I want your job. And this week, more than anybody else I have spoken to, I deeply wish that I had the raw moxie to have this job. I feel like if I could have Mekaella's job, I would be a healthier person in my vision of self, in my willingness to share with the world, and a happier person because I think it seems like an insanely fun job. And also healthier because I feel like there's a lot of physical activity involved as opposed to the extreme ass sitting that my actual job involves. So, Mekaella, what is your job title?
Well, I actually do think you could do my job, and I think you'd be fabulous at it. So if you want my job, this is the
Hard
pitch.
no. Hard no.
I'm a professional naked nerd. I do everything from cosplay sex work to costuming and burlesque. I also work in the stripper industry as well as the vaudeville and sideshow industry. So
I think it's amazing. I have so many questions. I have so many thoughts. I have so much envy. I just so much, Mekaella. Oh my God. So we're going to start with some easy stuff.
Okay.
And then we'll go from there. So how did this start? How did you at what point did you think, you know how I want to pay my rent? I think I'll take off my clothes for money. How did that happen?
Do you want the cliche version or
Nope.
the honest?
Honest to God version.
Honest to God version. I think my parents should have known I was going to be some kind of queer stripper when they caught me as a kid watching old movies like the Natalie Woods Gypsy, or like Lady of Burlesque black and white films, and me being like, I want to do that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They should have seen it coming, and they didn't. No. So I was always a theater kid. When I was a teenager, when I came back to the States, because I also used to live part-time in England with my family, I would bribe my way with my family of being like, I will totally behave and wear these silly frilly gender normative outfits and do all the things and not act obviously gay in exchange for theater programs and my first summer job at the Renaissance Festival. And I met a bunch of carnies. They taught me how to eat fire. I was sneaking out and doing Rocky Horror Picture Show. I was doing community theater, and I was a theater major in college, despite my mother's problems with that, because in our family, women go to college to meet a husband and get a man.
You were going for your MRS. Oh.
Joke's on them.
So I am so excited. So we have crossover in that regard. I too was once a Rocky Horror cast member.
Oh my goodness.
So I would say 3 guesses, but I think it is excruciatingly obvious who I would have had to have played. Like, I feel like there's only one even slight option for me. So
are you I'm getting magenta vibes.
Obviously.
I feel like you'd be a good Frank or Trixie.
I'm old, so we didn't do as much of the actual gender bending. Oh, irony with Rocky Horror. It tended to be dudes that played Frank and chicks that play chicks. So no, totally magenta. Totally magenta.
I bet you were an amazing magenta.
I really felt that way, but I was not always sober at the time. So,
The honest truth about Rocky Horror Picture Show culture is no one's ever sober. The odds is done. The cast is done. It's fine.
Yes. No, I loved it. So we have that tiny piece of history in common. And now I am a boring, middle-class suburban housewife with 2 children and 2 dogs. So
you're not boring at all. No, you have an awesome life. I like reading up about you.
You are so perfect.
Huh?
You are so kind and fabulous. So you parlayed life at a Ren Fair and some Rocky Horror and high school drama into Now I get naked for money. I still feel like there's a jump there. Like, what was your first, like, what was the first time you incorporated the actual, like, nakedness, the sex play content, all of that into work? And was that empowering? Was that scary? Was that all of the above? Like, how did that go?
It was a combination of things. So I went this entire pre-done showbiz career trying to be an actress or a regular entertainer, but I was constantly hearing, you're very talented, you're a very good performer, you're very disciplined, you're very skilled, you're a great actress, but you need to lose weight in your nose job to be successful. Or if you want to move forward, you need to lose weight and get a nose job. And even as like a 16-year-old kid hearing that, the trauma it induces. So I had a horrible relationship with my body. And then one day, community theater said, we're going to try a burlesque show and see how it goes. So we did it. And I was like, sure, why not? And I did it I was fresh out of college and I did it. I went, oh, this is it. This is the combination of all the vintage old things I like. And I can do storytelling and character work still, but it still super feels good. And then from there on, I just stayed as an independent and kept like guesting with troupes and moving from there. I also dabbled in some fetish industry work. I started testing out things. Plus, when you're just out of college, you're going to try the webcam life and see if you can pay your bills.
I did not. I went straight into HR, which is like the opposite of webcam life. Like,
it's still telling people like your feelings are valid. Like it's still...
I feel like you do not know me as an HR professional, if that's how you think that goes. Here's me as an HR professional. Why are you telling me your feelings? Are you under the impression I'm your therapist? Because I am not. Go back to work. Good day, sir.
Well, I mean, in sex work, you can still use that same tone. Like
for sure.
No, it still sells.
I do sometimes. I have clients who have suggested that I could have a very successful side hustle as a dominatrix.
Do it, sis. It's good money. Do it. So I was doing that nightlife entertainment. I was already a fire eater. I was already, might as well blend everything together. And then I started producing my own shows too, because there was a lot of performers in Florida not getting opportunity because they weren't thin white girls. So we were told we were unpolished despite being covered in rhinestones. Right? So I started producing my own shows. And then one of those shows I first produced, someone came into the audience with me and they said, I saw my body on stage tonight, in you specifically, and I got permission to feel sexy. Thank you. And my brain just went, yes, the thing. And so that just rolled from there. And I just kept going. I was like, well, there's my purpose. That's my thing. Let's just keep going with it as a plus size performer. Because I'm 220 pounds of fuck around and find out. And so I just kept doing it. And I kept putting, I got a lot of gigs at conventions and stuff. And because I'm a nerd and because I already was doing cosplay as a kid, because I was that weirdo that would go to midnight releases of Lord of the Rings and my parents be like, why are you wearing robes? What is wrong with you? So I was the one sneaking out and going to Star Trek things. So it was just a perfect blend over. And then I did strip club work for about 5 years. And then the great panini happened. So like over a decade later, here we are.
So let's just jump in with the whole like body image thing, because you've mentioned it already a couple of times and it's such an issue, right? Like I had this moment as a kid that like I was in a professional theater program and they were like, oh yeah, she's really talented, but she's a chubby kid.
Right.
And this industry is mean. And so either she's going to have to live on lettuce, leaves, and saltines, or she's going to have to get used to people telling her she's fat no matter what she does. And my parents were like, I feel like maybe neither of these are healthy options. Bye, Felicia. My parents didn't make a lot of great decisions when I was a kid, but I feel like that one is like, that's solid parenting right there. Yeah. But I think like, so that's been the case forever. Right now, Hollywood is really trying to convince us that like they're much more body positive And all of this is really changing. My sister made me watch American Idol the other night, and they were like, look, we have chubby girls. Don't you feel the love now? Talk to me about your experience as somebody actually working as a performer. Like, do you actually see change, or do you see that you are the change and that you're a voice alone in the abyss?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I feel like I'm seeing change, baby steps, in a lot of entertainment industries, including burlesque. I still feel like even here in Florida, we still have these all white, all thin burlesque shows happening. I feel like inclusivity is there with the visibility of the people who know, hi, this is how I identify, this is my here, like even everything from differently abled and disabled performers to indigenous performers are like, I'm purposely making sure I'm visible. So the change within the communities that are marginalized, I'm definitely seeing change because there's more push from people who want the inclusivity. But then I'm feeling too that there's just as equal pushback. There's still, you know, producers out there that even though I've reached out to them and been like, hi, I've upgraded my costumes, that you called me polished 5 or 10 years ago, unpolished 5 or 10 years ago. Here's my upgraded costumes. Here's my upgraded acts. Here's all the good I've done for our industry and community. Here's my updated CV or resume. And they're still like, you're just not what our venue is looking for. These phrases to other and make sure that they don't get in the door is still happening, unfortunately. But I do feel like there's still, if the audience wants it, why not put them on your stages? If the audience wants to see themselves represented on stage in sexy, naked bodies, why not? So I think it's more a failure on their part to not understand that those tickets will sell. I think they're so scared of losing tickets that they don't think that they're scared of not getting the tickets sold or upsetting their venues, but not realizing that those tickets will sell to people who look like you.
So I follow a lot of people on the TikTok that are like
the
tickety talk that are like, I'm fat and sexy and get over it. And that's I do too. But one of the things that those influencers talk a lot about is how much, as much as they get equal parts of, oh my God, I love you. You make me feel like it's okay to be me. They get a lot of, you're disgusting and shame on you.
Right.
Do you get both sides of that same coin as well?
I do.
That's so personal for you because that, like, your job is taking off your clothes and feeling sexy. And see, I couldn't handle that. That's the part for me. I'd be like, nope, not going to happen. How do you handle those moments and keep being you?
Actually, let's tackle it from you. Let's tackle that question from why you said nope for you, because you couldn't handle that. Yep. So what I think is that when you're doing burlesque, because it's empowering and it's a vulnerable art, even in regular sex work, it's still vulnerable and it's more about you and your journey. I think that that's something where you need to look at that you're doing it for you. They just get the pleasure. They just get the, not the pleasure, but the honor of being in the same room with you while you're doing it. I think that it's more important about your storytelling and your act and your performance and how you feel about your body, and everybody else just gets to bask in the glory of it. And I feel that that is something I would love to see people who want to dabble in the performance. So if you want to come over to the dark side, we do have cookies. I'll be here waiting for you. So if you do, it's more about your journey, and you're still going to get comments from the audience. I've been on stage and I've heard from the front row, oh, she does this, or and comments about my body while I'm on stage. And hearing that, we do photos at the end of shows with the audience sometimes. And I've been purposely stood in front of by a I'm assuming is a cis male audience member, and put his arms around the two thinner girls for their photos. Or I've had people go to me, oh, you're so brave, and then go to the next performer who is thinner than me or has a flat stomach and no stretch marks, and look at them and go, oh my God, you're gorgeous, you're fabulous, your act was so great, da, 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 da. And I feel like there's still always going to be that othering. Until there's a shift societally, there's nothing I can do about it besides being obnoxiously visible. I'm just going to continue being here until you're all.
That could be your new tagline: obnoxiously visible. Like,
yeah, like There's a whole reason why part of my brand is bi and bougie, because I'm bougie and I'm in your face about it. And that's the only way I can think of things changing until society gets their shit together. Oh, can I swear?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, you're fine. So I think that's amazing. But I love that we talk about how it's really empowering, because I think this is really important, that we have so much of the dialogue around sex work of all varietals comes from this like really puritanical place that talks about how, you know, it's degrading to women, it's putting women down, and you know, you have nothing but your body to sell. Isn't that sad? And I think that I love the fact that you're changing that script around and saying this is totally empowering. Like, I'm getting up here and doing exactly what I felt like doing today, and y'all happen to be in the audience and you paid me to do it. Freaking,
I already have your money.
Yeah. So I think that's amazing. But talk to me a little bit about, like, because you must get that concern and pushback from people. You must have people trying to save you from a life of, you know, sin and debauchery. Like, how do you help them understand that this is not downtrodden, sad lady? This is empowered. I'm here because I want to be, and you're welcome.
I get that more. I don't get as much in burlesque or vaudeville or the fire entertainment part of the industry. I get that more in the sex work industry and in the strip club. I get a lot of Captain Save a Hose.
Okay.
There's a lot of
everybody's seen Pretty Woman one time too many. They all think they're Richard Gere.
Right? Like, let me take you away from here. Don't you think you're better than this? And there's a lot of women who will be pearl clutchers and will be like, well, don't you have any self-value or self-worth?
Yes, about $200 an hour, thanks.
I get that a lot. And I always respond with, imagine having so much self-worth that I can take my body, my time, my energy, put a value, monetary value on it, and then make a profit margin and then add tax. Like, I have so much self-worth that I'm going to profit off of a system that is screaming against me. And I feel like it really is little Kim fuck bitches make money. Like, I feel like I have so much self-worth that I found a way to profit off of it. So is your problem with me, or is your problem with the system that made women feel like we can't, and the system that put us here? Like, all the time I get a lot of people, like, even relationships and jobs are kind of like, oh, well, you clearly don't value yourself if you're doing this for male attention. I said, I'm not doing this for the male attention. I'm queer. I don't want the male attention. I don't want to be perceived by males. I would much prefer just to have their money. So it's really just putting a dollar amount on what my time and energy is worth, and then profiting off of the rest. So, and I think that it comes down to intersectional feminism 101, and everybody learns that some people value modesty in themselves, some people value, you know, egotism in themselves, and it's up to that person to decide what's best for them and their body. Whereas you can't control what other people do with their bodies.
I love that idea, that it's about, you know, what do you value about your body? And I think, like, for me, but I also think that there's a lesson there that, like, I was raised that the only thing that mattered was being the smartest person in the room. Hands down. Kindness did not matter. Physical attractiveness did not matter. Being right and being the smartest person in the room were the two things that mattered in my household as a kid. And so as a result, I was a mega bitch who had no way did not know how to express herself physically, if that makes sense. Like, and had, like, still have, thank God for therapy. But I have, you know, weird body issues and that kind of stuff, because there was never, I don't believe my father ever in my entire life told me I was pretty. And that's not like, you know, oh, you know, sad panda, but that's a weird thing for a girl, especially. I was told I was a lot of things, many of them positive by him, many of them not, but never that I was pretty. And he didn't care if I was kind. If anything, for him, kindness was often weakness. And so I think that that's so interesting for me to hear you talking about like loving your body and valuing that, because we as society right now, there's this whole discourse about stop telling girls they're pretty, stop telling girls that they're beautiful, stop telling girls to focus on the physical. And I can speak that there's an imbalance that can happen that way too. And you're saying, nah, screw it. Tell everybody to find what you love about you and then monetize the hell of it. Just lean in. You love your body? Great. You love your mind? Great. And I think that's just so interesting.
I feel like the two truths can exist though. I feel like it's important that we tell, especially young girls or even like young trans kids, any gender really. I feel like it's important that we tell them they can be both. I felt like when I was growing up, I could be pretty like my sister, or I could be smart like my brother, but you know, I can never be both. And I feel like I am the stripper who took Harvard classes. And I have a certificate from Harvard. I can be both. I feel like I definitely suffer from having to be the smartest person in the room all the time, because coming from a background as a plus size kid, if I couldn't be pretty like my sister, I had to at least be able to shut down all the people telling me I'm not pretty. So I have that defense mechanism as well. Yeah, I'll tell people about themselves, and it's something that I am also working on in therapy. Therapy is a beautiful thing.
Oh, so good.
There's a lot of crying. She does not laugh at my jokes, but I'm here and I'm paying you $125 an hour.
Mine at least acknowledges that I'm funny. She's like, yes, Michelle, you're very funny, but you are not here to amuse me.
I love that you get the validation but with the follow-up. Like, mine does. I get a lot of, what did we say about deflecting with jokes, Mekaella? Just laugh at my jokes, Janet.
It's not that hard. I'm very amusing.
That's what I'm like. But oh yeah, oh therapy. So I do recognize that, and I relate to that on a very intimate level that we'll probably never go into in public forum. But I do feel like another thing is women can be both. Burlesque and strip club work and sex work require a level of intelligence, in my opinion, that some people may not be able to achieve. Because when you're working in a strip club or working with clients in sex work or the fetish industry or in dominatrix work, or if you're working in showbiz, you have to be able to see when that person comes in the door, if they're a safe person, figuring out if they're someone you can profit off of. You have to figure out everything, gauge what fantasy they want you to sell to them. You know, trying to figure out that fantasy while still maintaining a safe space and everything. That takes a lot of mental gymnastics. And I feel like that the concept that sex workers, strippers, any of those of us who get naked for money can't also be intelligent, so infuriating.
I will tell you that some of the best hiring managers I've known for sales teams, straight up, the two people that they would most appreciate hiring, bodybuilders, like crazy, like super, like, you know, old school Schwarzenegger, like, you know, muscle competition guys, and strippers, because they're extremely goal orientated. They're good at focusing, and strippers are also very financially motivated. And so like they make kick-ass salespeople. What is difficult with strippers is really good strippers. It is hard as hell to compete with that money. So, I mean, that's a lot. So on that note, how do you handle it when people ask you how much you make?
Honestly, I tell them it depends where I am and what I am and what other effects there are, because it's not stable income. A lot of people are thinking like, oh, you just make bank all the time and it's always going up, and it's not. The pandemic is a perfect example where everyone lost their job in a matter of weeks. We can have that kind of financial loss in a matter of 24 hours. A club, our favorite club, can shut down. A club can decide that they don't take your body type anymore. A burlesque show can stop touring, you know, because the headliner gets sick. Your job is never secure. It definitely is hard to answer in general. Like there's nights where I can walk in, I can make, you know, $500 for just an hour's worth of work. Or there's nights where I go home losing money because I either had to get gas to go to the gig, or if I'm working in a strip club, I have to pay house fees. A lot of things people don't know is most times in any form of sex work, you pay to work. It's like being a salon stylist where you pay a booth rental. So like if you go to a strip club tonight, you know that the 3 girls you're seeing are probably paying $45 to work from 7 to 2 as their fee. Plus they have to tip the DJ out to not play crappy music on purpose against them. They have to tip the security guard out to make sure that they get to the door to their car safe, because there's always a customer in the parking lot waiting to kill someone or worse. And you have to tip out the bartender for making sure that your drinks are clean. And you have to tip out the house mom and the managers for making sure it's okay for you to work. So there's times where, if let's say if you're working at a certain strip club and you make 300 that night, you're really only walking away with 100. You know, you have to figure out. And then if you do private dances, there might be fees on top of that private dance. There's some clubs where I can give a private dance for say $25, 5 of that goes to house. So you have to be able to budget that and figure out who's worth your time, how much time you have left, and how much you need to hustle in order to make it worth your time. Plus, a lot of people don't strip in the same town they live in for safety reasons, so you don't get followed home. So like I used to drive from the Villages to Claremont to dance here in Florida, and I would do that hour-long drive every night just to make sure that I would be safe. And so then you think gas and everything like that. When it comes to burlesque, you have to think about the costumes. You know, you're putting thousands of dollars worth of rhinestones on, you know, a $58 corset or more. Or if you're getting custom stuff done, if you don't sew yourself, like some of us do, you have to think about all of those.
And you have such a range of cosplay that you do as well. And I mean, that's one of the things that people always say about cosplay. Like, it is insanely expensive, some of those costumes and those components, because they're hard to come by. And then like that's before you put in all of the individual work. So I mean, your wardrobe alone, Mekaella, must be worth like hundreds. Do you have like special insurance for it? Like, genuinely?
I actually, the only insurance I carry is my circus insurance, to be honest. I would love to be able to insure all of my stuff, but honestly, after 10 years of just buildup, that's why I have a range. Every cosplay I learned the hard way. Every cosplay I make has to be strippable. It has to be able to work. It has to be able to go to a club with me or to a gig with me in case that gig pops up. So that way it makes the money back. So even if I make a cosplay for fun, like right now I'm working on Garza Fwip from Book of Boba Fett. And I was doing the budgeting and sewing that costume, and I realized I was like, I need to stop working with this fabric, switch skirts so that I can strip out of this, so that this will make the money back I'm putting into it, because like it was $200. I got lucky with some things. I sometimes have fans who will buy prints, or they'll buy different items from me, and I'll put that money towards certain costumes. But the only insurance I carry is my specialty circus insurance for my fire eating, fire fuel, fire dancing, stilt walking, and bed of nails. So that way I can always have that insurance with me. Any performer that does those types of gigs, they need to have it, or else they get blacklisted in an ideal world for not working insured. So the only insurance I have is that. I would love to insure my costumes, but I burn through some of them so fast, there's no point.
So that kind of, so talking about insurance and those types of things, let's talk about like the regulations around what you do, because there are a lot of crazy laws in a lot of different places. Like, you can show this, you can't show that. You can show this, but only on Tuesdays when the moon is full and like Taurus is in retrograde. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. I feel like to do what you do, you almost need to be an attorney, right? Because to know all of the nuance, I can do this, but I can't touch you there. I can, like, how do you hold all of that in your head? And where do you get the knowledge in the first place? Like, is there like stripper 101 class that you take where they're like, okay, here's what you need to know? Like, how does it work?
So you can either get really lucky and your local industry will have community leaders who will educate you, whether it's as a free resource, or you can pay them to take classes, so you can pay them for their knowledge and time. Or you are like how I was 10 years ago, where I was just thrown to the wolves and you figure the fuck out. and hope you don't get arrested. So when it comes to both burlesque and stripping, you have to learn about blue laws.
Right.
Blue laws are laws that are around the femme body. And what they do is, because most of them don't say about male genitalia or male nipples, most of the laws say her, or they say, they're all very gendered towards female bodies. And those are laws that you can find anywhere you would look up your local sheriff's office info to find out like what you can put in your yard. You can find blue laws of what
but they vary from like municipality, because I'm in Texas, and like I know like blue laws vary can literally from like city to city, and the difference between one city and another is sometimes across the street. Like you could be in a strip club here, walk across to a gig there, and have totally different laws. Like that alone would be terrifying to me.
Here it's by county. In New Orleans it's by parish. Has a street difference in some cases. In LA, thankfully, I think LA is just statewide, if I remember correctly when I was there last. But it's either up to for burlesque shows, it's up to you as a producer to set up your cast for success of being like, hey, here's the blue laws, here's a link, go read. Or tell them like 3 fingers of fabric in the front, 2 fingers of fabric in the back, areolas have to be covered, no pasties popping. Or yeah, you need to wear undercut bras or not, things like that. So it should be up to your producer to make sure that you are safe and set up for success. In strip clubs, you just got to find out on your own because the bartender are going to tell you. So it literally just came habit for me to be able to look it up and just like remember, okay, this weekend I'm in Miami, I can free for all. Or this weekend I'm in this county, so I have to wear full granny panties, but I can still have pasties. You know, so you just have to figure it out and always have backups in your bag. And then it still happens to this day. There's still a police presence that can appear in your shows for burlesque. Like we have a troupe here in Florida that actually experienced a raid. People think it's not real. It's real. And that was burlesque. That wasn't even strip club work. And strip club.
What does a raid look like? Is it like in the movies where like the cops come in like, this is a raid, and like everybody's screaming like, I can't get caught here, I'm an elected official. Like, is that real?
It really can happen. So what's really frustrating is whether it's a uniformed police presence or not, they stand there and they be intimidating, and they arrest performers but never the audience. So for the troupe here that experienced it, it was just like they came and they stood there and they waited for you to fuck up, but they didn't fuck up. So they had a police presence waiting for them to fuck it up, and then they were like a pasty pop or a stocking ripped the wrong way. You know, and in some places too, it's not just your costume, it can be how you move. For example, we all know the Rocky Horror line, God Bless Lily Sincere. That is a reference to Lily Sincere, the burlesque dancer, who coming into one particular county was told that the blue laws were you cannot leave the stage with less clothes than what you go on in. And she was booked for her famous bathtub act. And so she did the whole act backwards. And there was a police presence waiting to arrest her. Because she did the whole act backwards legally when they arrested her, she got out scot-free and nothing happened. But yeah, it's an ongoing thing around femme bodies of just like, it's kind of frustrating too, because you see drag shows where you'll see masculine performers never have an issue with a police presence in their shows, but it will happen in burlesque all the time. But yeah, there's people just think it doesn't happen or it will never happen to them. And it's just cops show up whenever they want.
You just would think they had something better to do with their life than worry about your stockings.
Well, I mean,
surely there's black people to shoot somewhere, right?
There's like we're in Florida, and then you ran out of black people to harass, so now you're coming for women. Okay, like
yeah, wow. So yeah. I know that there is a lot of movement around trying to change some of the other draconian blue laws, right? Because blue laws also govern, it is all of the ways that religion imposes itself in our society that is supposed to be separation of church and state, right? So it's also that you can't buy booze on Sunday. All that stuff. And there's been a lot of pushback. People are like, it's eroding over time. Is that also happening in the sex trade, or is that like a hard line and nobody's looking to go there yet?
I feel like the arts is getting more of the let's fix things. I feel like when it comes to the sex worker industry, I personally don't see a change. I see a lot of great nonprofits like Red Umbrella Org. Please donate to them. They're amazing. They are actually actively fighting legislation for sex workers by sex workers. Organizations like that are great. They're trying to make more visibility, more movement. Then you have laws like FOSTA and SESTA that just set us backwards in the digital realm. But I feel like that when it comes to the arts and freedom of expression, things that can fall under that amendment of freedom of expression and speech, when your arts can get that freedom, that's great. But I don't feel like I'm seeing a stronger push from the average person. And when I say the average person, I mean the normies or civilians that are not somehow connected to our industries. Yeah, so like you're connected though. You come from this background where you respect it, you like it, you will be in the audience. I'm talking about legislators, the mom that goes to church on Sundays that has never been to a burlesque show in her life, that's never heard. They just think OnlyFans is something bad people do. You know, those types of people. The live, laugh, love Karens are never going to fight for us the way that they would fight for a theater show to be able to do the full Monty. So I feel like there's always going to be that weird line. There's even burlesque dancers that separate themselves from like club strippers like us or dominatrixes and sex workers. There's always going to be that othering because there's this antique ideal of that's pushed by the patriarchy of the pick me girl, of I'm better because I don't do all the things that the Madonna whore might do. I'm better, to tie into that Madonna part of the Madonna whore complex. Which is just something we just have to unpack as a society. And then maybe as the arts moves forward, it would help the sex work industry. I'm not seeing it actively and I'm tired. Like, yes, my fetish is fighting fascism, but I'm also very tired and burnt out.
I can totally and completely understand. It's so interesting. So one of the other people I follow on the TikTok is a sex worker from Australia, and where it is perfectly legal. And oh, do we follow the same person?
I think I follow this person as well. Okay, sorry, go on.
She has rainbow hair. She's the pregnant. She is fabulous. Yes. Okay. So we both follow her, so you're familiar with the story. But it's so interesting. And like, I know that there is a growing trend on platforms like TikTok, on platforms like Insta, for people who are in the sex trade to be like, not a freak, not sad that I'm doing this. Right. It's not like the myth that you've been told that I was down on my luck. The only thing I could do was go to this. Like, that is not how this happened. This is an active choice that I make. There is great reasons for it. I hope that we are starting now that battle, to change hearts and minds about this topic. And people, because it is easier to connect with people from very different walks of life than it would have been 10 years ago, right? I'm hopeful, cautiously optimistic.
I want to be hopeful. I do. I also
think it's interesting to me. So my husband is English and we spent 10 and a half years in England. And while we were over there, like, burlesque is a thing. But it's like, we took the whole family to a burlesque show and like cabaret night for Christmas one year. So like my father-in-law and his new wife and my brother-in-law and his wife and me and my husband all went and like had a booth, and it was amazing. And we had a great time. But like, nobody thought that was weird. Nobody was like, you took your father-in-law to a stripper? And we're like, no. We took our father-in-law to a performance in which people happen to be wearing less clothing than they are in other performances sometimes. But like, we took him to see live art, not anything else. So it's so interesting to me that like, there's this huge cultural difference even between like the UK, which is not known for being open-minded and forward-thinking.
Right. Well, they also had a huge burlesque and rockabilly revival before America got theirs. So they were a good 20 years ahead of us on the burlesque scene. Here in America, we had our like rockabilly, psychobilly, vintage, and burlesque revival a little bit after them. So I feel like they've had it around a long time to have a good standard industry over there.
Like, one of the things I love about it is, and I think you will appreciate this as a fellow retro girl, like it's an old fashioned supper club, like a Doris Day movie supper club. You come in, you're dressed up, you pass your coat to the doorman, you go and you sit down at your table, the show starts, everybody goes, ooh, ah. And then, like, you have a 3-course dinner, and then there's dancing, and then everybody goes home. That's like, that's an amazing experience. And I don't know what happened to supper clubs in this country, but I really wish they would come back, like pandemic notwithstanding.
I was told that they were not possible. I wanted to open one. And I don't have the capital. People like us don't have the capital.
This is the odd. Somebody said to me, like, oh, I think that'd be great. You should, because I'm in Austin, right? Like, if ever there was going to be a burlesque supper club in Texas, it was going to be in Austin. And yet, no, there is none.
Nope. There's a lot of clubs and venues that will host burlesque shows here in America. I think the closest one you'll have to a supper club like that feel is in New York. There's a great one called Duane Park. And it's like that's the pinnacle of all of us dream to one day perform there. It's this great supper club, 2-story place set up in that very 1950s look, and it's constant burlesque like every week. And then there's places like the Slipper and things like that. Pretty much they start out as nightclubs that mold their way into finding that that's their niche, and they start doing just vaudeville shows. I would love to open one here in Florida. If anybody wants to invest in me, let me know.
They've got 20 mil burning a hole in their pocket. Like,
strippers can't get low, and someone invest in my idea.
I feel like Kickstarter coming on, Mekaella. That's what we got to do. Kickstarter.
Right? It's hard to get the capital for that, because the people who are in our industries and scenes, we're starving artists, or we have day jobs that we can't, take away from. Like, you're in HR, you can't take away from that to go open a supper club, even if you had the capital. So it's because that takes time. The people that have the time and the artistic drive to do it, and the visualization, they can't get the capital, and they can't get loans. It just sucks.
So this is how, like, I have just a dream of opening a supper club with you. Like, that's now my new thing that I feel like we should just go and do. Yeah, absolutely. Like, next step, open a supper club. I feel like that's perfect. But so you talked a little bit about like the capital, and like you can't get a loan. That is something like I was wondering about, like, is that the case? Like, are you self-employed? Do you work for a troupe? Like, how do people, because so hairdressers often are nominally employed by a salon, even if they have to pay rent in order to help with that, right? So they are W-2 employee, etc. Is the same true in the sex trade and performance and stripping industry and all of that?
So there's different ways. If you're part of a troupe, you may, if they're even paying you, because there's a lot of troupes that will not even pay people more than tip split. If you're in troupe and you are getting paid, you are probably doing independent contractor work. When it comes to the strip club and sex industry, you are an independent contractor, and you go in and the paperwork you fill out is because it's up to you to pay your taxes and everything. I use QuickBooks or before QuickBooks, I used to have just this shoebox in my car full of receipts. So pretty much we pay taxes like everyone else. But the problem is, because everything we do is mostly cash. Well, now we're mostly digital, but thank you, Panini. Panorama, pterodactyl, panna cotta. So we mostly function in cash, and it's hard to build credit. It's hard to do these things if you're functioning mostly in cash and tips, or a venue is just paying you in a hard $100 bill. So you have to keep track of that yourself and prove that you're self-employed, and prove that you're doing losses and profit and things like that. So there's a lot of performers too out there that haven't been taught that they can, whether it's for strip club sex work, even online digital sex work. people are only now learning that if they did an OnlyFans, they had to pay taxes this year. So, but it's always been there. It's just no one's told you yet, or you've not figured it out yourself. So it's really difficult to function as an underground industry, whether it's as an artist or as a sex worker, to maneuver, and where everyone else in normal society that has 9-to-5 jobs, you know, they can prove their work all year just fine. You can't prove, well, I had a good season and then a bad season, here's my stuff. So I have to use QuickBooks because I lose track.
Is there a burlesque season? Like, is there a
there
time of year that is like, this is our peak season? So like for recruitment, right? Like I can plan that the week between Christmas and New Year ain't nothing happening that week because no hiring manager is there to make a decision. Everybody else is bunked off. That's cool. Is there a season, like, do you have anything that is cyclical or seasonal with you guys, or is it just literally every day is a crapshoot?
It's pretty much every day is a crapshoot. However, anytime that you would go out for a drink and celebrate with your friends a holiday, I'm a gig. It wasn't until the pandemic that I even had holidays with my loved one, or with my partner. You know, like I hadn't gone to a holiday party, or even Halloween. This past pandemic was the first time I got to give candy to trick-or-treaters in my entire career. Because these are prime gigs. This is when we're hired by event people. This is when we're hired by venues to do an event. So anytime that there's an excuse for people to go out and drink, I'll either be in the strip club, or I will be doing, well, in the before times at least, I would be in the strip club, or I would be on stage at a gig. Even things like May the 4th, because it's Star Wars Day, that's a gig night. So anytime that, you know, this past weekend was St. Patrick's Day. In the before times, we would have been in the strip club wearing all neon green, or we would have been at the burlesque show wearing all green rhinestones. It's always, at least there's always work there in the before times, at least there was.
So you mentioned your loved one. So let's talk about dating and stripping, because the movies tell us that those two things cannot go together. That people are like, I don't want you doing that. That's my body. Other people can't see it. I cannot imagine anybody that you putting up with that from anybody ever, Mekaella. Like you personally, you'd be like, I'm sorry, what now? This is mine, and I get to show it to whoever I want to. Go away. But does it make that? How do you have that first conversation when you meet somebody that you're like, oh, you seem nice, and I'd like your pants off kind of way. And they're like, so what do you do? And you're like, you know, I take off my clothes. Let's try that now. I mean, how does that conversation go?
So I'm polyamorous and queer, so I have a primary partner, and there's a whole other thing about that, that I live with, and then, you know, other dating. So I have found that I'm too easy to Google, because marketing. With this partner that I've been with the longest, this was the first time they met me at a con. They'd seen me on stage. You know, this was the first time, even though we were friends from before I even had a career, this was the first time, like, I had a time of being like, up front, here's what I do. If you don't like it, you're cordially invited to fuck off. This is my income. This is how I do this. I have lost relationships. I have had people try to be like, well, you need to give this up if you need to give this up. This is not for you. And I've decided. And I lost those relationships, and it depends on where you. Oh no, recording stuff.
You're fine. It just froze for a second. So, yeah, hang on. So my husband is editing. So to help him find the place to do the editing, I have a secret word. So, banana hammock. And so now he'll know to come in, like, do some editing there. You're fine. All right.
That's one of my safe words too.
It was my safe word when I was pregnant.
I love it. Oh, that's great. Oh, I remember one time it was Mr. Mistopheles, and then Cats came out and went, nope, we can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Oh. So your current partner obviously knew, or primary partner knew from the get-go. I would imagine that you get a lot of people who it's fine when it's you, but they don't want to introduce you to mom, or they want a different story when they go talk to mom. And I would imagine that you tell them to go find a lake and jump in it. But I don't know if that's true because moms are complicated things. So how do you handle that? And if you don't want to talk about your own experience, we can talk about like other people's experiences that you're aware of.
I was very nervous. I actually didn't think, because I'm also coming from a traumatized place where when my sister found my fan page, I was outed to my family as a queer stripper. And as the queer stripper, I was labeled the abominable whore, and I was disowned by my family. So that's another story for another time. So I come from a place of knowing that this is not to go well. So I was like, you know, we can just tell them I'm a receptionist. We can tell them I'm a bartender. We can but I feel like I got very lucky with this particular partner who was just like, oh no, I tell them you're an entertainer, and they can find you on Google. I don't, if they have a problem with it, oh well. That's my relationship with them. So I was kind of like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. I became Beaker the first time I met them. I was like, meep, meep, meep the whole time. I feel like not everyone's story can be the same. A lot of people can't tell their partners. A lot of people can't tell their partners' families. I think mine are we just don't talk about it. It's an elephant in the room.
Your work is Bruno.
I am Bruno. I live in the walls. I went into that movie thinking I would be a Louise, and no, I'm Bruno. So we don't talk about burlesque Bruno, or stripper Bruno.
I feel like that's a new skit you could do, would be the Bruno strip. Like
if I wasn't white, yes. But oh my God, I outsourced all my confidence to Fernando. I would totally live in the walls. That's just some feral raccoon energy I relate to on a spiritual level. But yeah, I think it's a difficult conversation. It's difficult to traverse, of course. It just depends on where they land on the feminism 101 to the might be related to Nazi scale. You know, like you have to figure it out.
So let's say you have a sister, right? Let's say she breeds and she makes tiny humans, and the tiny humans get less tiny, and they call Auntie Mekaella the blasphemer. And they say, Auntie Mekaella, I really feel like stripping is for me, and this is what I want to be when I grow up. How do you feel, and what would you say?
In this situation, it's not applicable because they're not allowed to know I exist. But if anyone, let's change banana. If anyone came to me and asked me, hey, I want to be a stripper, this is what I want to do when I grow up, I would definitely say, please do your research. Please listen to how some of these have been the most violent and dangerous nights of my life, and think about the consequences that I've had to face, and think about if that's a journey still for you. I would gladly support you if that was your route, but I do understand that it's not for everyone. I would definitely say your research, find out what's safe for you, reach out to other people in the industry. If anybody wants to get into any industry where you take your clothes off for money as a femme presenting person, no matter your gender, as a femme presenting person, more so if you're marginalized as POC or queer or anything else, definitely think about the safety factor and how the internet is forever. And think about where your goals tie into that. If you're like me and your goal was to always just be an entertainer or an artist somehow and be ridiculous the rest of your life and live your genuine self, cool, it works. If you have goals like, well, one day I want to, be a manager or a boss of some type of company, and they won't good on that, or one day I want to have like a family and kids. You might have to put that on hold or find someone that can get over what you've done in the past. There's always going to be that stigma there, and you have to be prepared to deal with that stigma. And if that ties into your goals, cool. If it doesn't tie into your goals or your goals change down the road, it's just something you're going to have to learn how to maneuver. But definitely do your research first.
I like that. I like that that's such a balanced way, that you're not saying, no, like I do this and I'm fabulous, and therefore people who do this are innately fabulous. Like I love the realism of like, know what this is getting into, and if this is still waters you want to swim in, come on in. So I think that that's as fair as anybody could possibly hope to be. So I think that's great. So I have to ask, you have so many amazing costumes and so many amazing images. And I will tell you, I spent a not small amount of time fangirling on your page because you're ridiculously hot and your clothes are amazing. Of all of your costumes, what is the one that you feel sexiest in? Because there's a lot of reasons to like something, right? But what is the one that you're like, I am on fire because this is what I am wearing right now?
I suffer. Okay, so I'm actually a very insecure person, and I suffer from body dysmorphia. So my relationship with my body is still a long journey.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit of a hypocrite. But I do
good self-awareness.
Yeah, like it's therapy, it's a journey. I feel I can tell you what makes the most money. I can tell you what the audience like the best. I can tell you what took the most hours. I can tell you what looks best on camera. I can tell you what sold well. I think the thing I have the most fun in, though, I think it's more to me like, what do I have more fun in than whether I feel sexiest? Because I think that's the better choice for me.
Okay.
I think it would definitely be fire pasties, because I just love the sheer terror of everyone in the front row when you light your boobs on fire. Like, I've made a grown man squirm because I've had my pasties on fire and I pulled a railroad nail out of my nose and he was just like ready to throw up in the front row. It's fabulous. I feel confident in that because the entertainment value and the fun for me, because I enjoy fire. This is gonna sound really funny. I feel really good and hilarious in my Connie the Hormone Monstrous burlesque costume. If you're a fan of Big Mouth, Connie is the sex educating burlesque, or not burlesque, sex educating hormone monster that is like talking to everyone as they go through puberty. I made that costume by hand, and it was ridiculous because I broke a sewing machine on it. So I made that costume by hand, and I feel like that is the most fun I can have in a costume, is this crazy furry monster telling people, you know, that you need a bubble bath, like just doing all the crazy fun things that she does. I really enjoy being in that costume. I also sometimes I feel sexy in stilts, I think, because I'm at a distance and you can't touch me. I'm like a cat. You can be in the room with me, but don't touch me. So sometimes I feel good in stilts because then I'm at a distance where people like are scared to be near you until you get the drunks. But I guess that might be it. I don't know. We'll see how I feel when I finish Garza Whip. I might feel better as a Twi'lek, as an alien. We'll see.
So if somebody goes to burlesque show and they love it and they want to give like the best compliments, I think because people get weird about sexy things, they often are like, I don't even fucking know what to say to the lady that was just very sexy. What is the best way to like, that gets them right in the feels? Like if you really want to compliment a burlesque performer, what is the best way to do that? Do you say you're hot as hell? Do you say, like, what do you say?
If you want to get them right in the feels, I would say find something particular about their act that you enjoyed to stay in your mind, the thing that you will go tell other people about their show. So if you're going to compliment them, hey, don't be scared to give us compliments, especially if you're not being creepy about it. Obviously, respect consent. Everyone's here to have a consensual good time.
Fair words, but not touches.
Touch me. Because that costs more and you can't afford it right now. So I would definitely find something in their act that touched you in a way or entertained you or made you laugh that you will remember to tell other people. That's the thing that tells them that they did good in their act. So when I have someone tell me, oh my God, the tauntaun you did in the Star Wars show, or oh my God, the talking vagina act that you did in this one traditional burlesque show, like that with the feather, that was so funny with the feather, things like that. Those are really nice because it feels like you paid attention, you got the story from beginning, middle, and end of my acts or things like that. If you just want to tell someone that you thought they were sexy and they're okay with it, be like, are you cool for me to tell you something? You just tell you were very sexy. Is that okay? Your act was very sexy. It was very sexy. I do that all the time with other performers. I'll be backstage and I'll be like, can I tell you something? And I'll be like a little Muppet. I'll be like, hey, can I give you a compliment? You were so pretty. And then I'll hide and scurry back into my corner. So you can do that. It's okay. It's normal. But I definitely feel like if you find something that you latch onto and give them a compliment about that, they'll love it. But I also like the compliments that come from internal working through, like that person that told me, hey, I saw myself in you on stage. You gave me permission to feel sexy. Ugly cry the whole way home. Every red light, someone would have looked at my car and just seen bubbles. Just gross of like, I did a good job today. I did a good job. I'm driving home. Like, so I definitely feel like that definitely perks up. If you tell a performer that they did their job some way in your compliment, that'll stay with them. That'll keep them high for the rest of the week.
I love that. Okay. Wow. We are out of time. So what have I not asked you that I should have done? Keeping in mind that all of the links to your fabulousness will clearly be in the show notes. So what else do people need to know?
I think just check out my links. Come see me in shows. I don't remember when this airs, but on March 26th in Jacksonville, Florida, I'm in a show called Pasties for Perez. It's a nonprofit fundraiser with the blessing and adoration of George Perez, the comic book artist for Marvel DC Comics. So I'll be performing in that and we'll be raising money for charity. And then anytime you go to Barnes & Noble or you want to go to my links down there, you can buy a book called Policing Muses. It is all about how laws around femme bodies affect the arts, cosplay, and strippers like me. So if you want some fun, educational 150-page rant, and you want to get angry and throw things against a wall, feel free to read Policing Muses, A History of Pasties and Merkins. But otherwise, I'll see you online and we'll see you in shows.
I love it. Thank you so much, Mekaella. This has been amazing. And thank you.
No, thank you. This was a pleasure. I am very honored to be here.
You've been listening to Hey, I Want Your Job. For more information on how you can get your own awesome job, visit ONH Consulting at www.onhconsulting.com. We offer incredible resumes, no-nonsense career advice, and real-world tips for landing a job in today's market. Check us out on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Insta for more insider information. Soon, you'll be hearing us say, I'm Michelle Olivier, and hey, I want your job.